May Jesus be praised, and onward with Mary. Good and holy day to you all, dear children, in the sacred hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the most holy heart of Saint Joseph. Welcome back to our morning feature, Saints and Coffee. Today is Friday, December 20th, only 5 days until Christmas. And we celebrate, in the traditional liturgical calendar that we follow, the Friday of the 4 Ember Days of Advent, as well as the 5th day of the Christmas Novena, thanking the Lord for all of you who are following it so intensely and participatively. Today's Friday, the day of the Lord's Passion, even though it's just a few days before Christmas. But Christmas is already a prelude to Easter, because Jesus comes, and firstly, he has nowhere to be born. Secondly, he comes, and they immediately try to get rid of him. The Gospel tells the story. Last night we were talking about the high priests. I went to bed with that thought. I don't know about you, because it's something unsettling. Scholars of Holy Scripture who know the prophecies, and yet they blatantly disregard God's actions. But Jesus came to earth to save us, and already Herod wants him dead. So today's Friday, then let's embrace our cross, my dear children. Each of us, now I'll do 15 seconds of silence. Look at your own cross, your own pain, your own illness, your own problem, your own affliction, one's own suffering. Now, after 15 seconds of silence, where each of us looked at it, 15 seconds is too few for me. I don't know about you. Let's do something else. Let's make this moment, right now, a source of joy. My cross, Jesus, is a source of joy. Look, as I say this, unintentionally, they'll think it's special effects. The window of the Madonna painting has opened in the sense that it's lit up. You noticed? Ah, yes, look, incredible. It's clearly a reflection of the sun, but right at this moment, my cross, Jesus, is a source of joy for me. Don't you feel the fizz, the bubbles inside? So Jesus, this cross for me, this cross you allow is for me a source of joy, a source of peace, a source of grace. The demons run away. Saint Therese also said this, because they want to exploit our suffering to discourage us, to break us down, and to make us lose faith in God. And instead, if we turn them into a source of love, holiness, light, grace, it's clear that crosses sanctify us and bring us to God. And watch out for those who propose ecclesial paths without the gospel and without spirituality. Let those who can understand. So, today's Friday. Remember the 2 Friday exercises. Abstinence from meat. No meat or meat products. I'm saying this now, especially for those coming to Sicily on the 27th of December. For the octave of Christmas, the abstinence from meat is obviously dropped because it's the octave of Christmas. So today's the last day before the long Christmas period, practically the last day before Christmas of abstinence from meat. And then the second exercise, the way of the cross. But above all this, when we accept our cross and offer it to God with love. So last night there was the 4th episode of the 4th day of the novena at 9 o'clock. We skipped the catechesis to make room for this novena. I was thinking to myself that, even without intending to, I highlight 2 or 3 at most during the liturgical year. The first is Divine Mercy from Good Friday. On the Saturday before Low Sunday, the Merciful Jesus, the 9 days of the novena of St. Faustina Kowalska. This is the Christmas one. The third is Immaculate. Sometimes I've also done the Assumption, but being August and all that, well, it becomes more of a local thing. Here, though, this Christmas novena is very important for preparing our hearts. Incidentally, if I manage to do this, you should tell me. I'd also be trying to help you meditate concisely on the Christmas passages, the most complete exposition of which you can find in my book, He Became Flesh. Last night we talked about the contrast between pride and humility, talking specifically about the high priests who don't move a muscle. They know the Messiah is born in Bethel. They don't even go out of curiosity. Or perhaps they might even suspect that someone, maybe out of curiosity, went to see. I don't know. Something's unsettling me. Benedict XVI, I was saying this last night, he delved into this. We've much to share today. That'll do. Right then, it's Friday today, before Christmas. Abstinence from meat and more practice of the Stations of the Cross. But above all, my dear children, let's look at our personal cross. Let's look at what the Lord allows as suffering. Pain sanctifies us. Pain is necessary. Those who don't face pain remain superficial, mediocre. Pain, my dear children, accepted with love. In the name of the Lord, it's the greatest gift God allows us on this earth. Remember this, because nobody else will say it except that crazy fool Don Minutella. Pain is God's greatest gift because it allows us to grow. Because growing up, we detach ourselves from earthly things and from ourselves. And we desire paradise, eternal life, and we accept everything with love. This is suffering. Let us accept it, my dear children. Let us not become exasperated. Let us not despair. Let us not become despondent. But instead, let us embrace the cross and make it a source of joy and holiness. Right, so today we're finally at the first of the last two meetings. The first of the last two, interesting. I'll get you to practice that in the morning. The first of the last two meetings. Of the last two, only I can say, only Don Minutella, who was only a donkey when it came to mathematics, can say the first of the last two. Today, however, there's the penultimate meeting where we are here in Lamezia Terme. We're in Calabria. I didn't remember the place. At the Grand Hotel Lamezia, Piazza Lamezia, right opposite the central station. My regards to the faithful of Calabria. Come and join us for this moment of grace on this fifth day of the novena. Program's intense at 4:30. It's the rosary, the chanting of litanies, and the consecration to Our Lady. Father Celestino's Mass. He's a bit of a poor thing at the moment, but soon before Christmas, I'll announce new initiatives because Father Celestino can't carry everything on his poor shoulders. Even if they are immense and he's broad-shouldered, he can't say 2 Masses a day or so. Anyway, let's see what we can do. I'll mention it to Brother Celestino in the confraternity of the Sodality. I'd still like to guarantee a daily Mass on Radio Domina, because if you haven't realized, and some people stubbornly refuse to, the devil's in the Vatican. Where else could the desire to stop our daily Mass come from? From the devil, that part that's in the Vatican, got it? They don't get it, won't accept it, it's too hard to grasp. But today we'll discuss a topic that, first of all, Celestino will be rather perplexed. I'm more than sure of it. In fact, I think he won't believe it at all, but it's a fact. Let's see what he thinks of it then. So I was saying that this serious business, the Vatican, which is the seat of Satan and the Antichrist, wants to prevent the daily Mass on Radio Domina, because it's practically telling the secular state, all the priests of the Sodality. I'd suggest Brother Celestine immolate himself. I'd do it in his place. I want to tell him this publicly. I hope he'll forgive me, because I felt it in prayer, this request to him, thinking of all the souls who are awaiting Christ's sacrifice, even from home. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Every morning until I'm defrocked, I say Mass. What will be, will be. Let's wait and see his decision. If he thinks differently, it's not unwillingness, but the Madonna's guidance. Rest assured, throughout Christmas, daily Masses at 8, including Christmas services, are confirmed for the 26th and 27th morning. Innocents' Day, the 31st in the morning, the 31st in the evening. Poor Brother Celestine, Midnight Mass Live, the 1st of January, the 6th of January. In short, until the 6th of January, before he's overwhelmed by the avalanche, Brother Celestine will, I think, be available to celebrate these Masses. Right, so we'll meet in Lamezia Terme at 16:30, the Rosary, the singing of the litanies, the consecration of Our Lady, Fra Celestino's Mass. After the Mass, together live, we sing around 6:30. We sing together the 5th day of the Novena of the Infant Jesus. And tomorrow's the last meeting in Catania, hoping we can cross the strait. And that's no joke, because I read this morning that a strong storm is forecast here for this afternoon and tomorrow, and it certainly looks like it. Let's hope the ferries run. Because they might also, I don't know, I think so. Anyway, it doesn't matter if we dance 20 minutes, half an hour. The important thing is that they leave at 2:30. Let's meet at the Garden Hotel for the faithful and the small remainder of Eastern Sicily in San Giovanni La Punta at 2:30. Right then, don't be late, 2 hours earlier than usual, 2:30 in the afternoon, to be able to return to Little Nazareth in good time. Tonight at 9 o'clock then, as it's Friday, there's the Rosary Pioneers. Yesterday, Father Johannes celebrated Mass in Asolo, in the province of Treviso. I said it, and I wasn't wrong. The faithful from Treviso and Veneto always know where to look. There weren't many images, but there were people there. It was wonderful to see this response. Here, this image best captures the existence of a small remnant that, despite everything, carries on, and this is probably the future. The Mass is celebrated around, so much to me, Little Nazareth. The structure has been taken from me. You will welcome us in houses or even in hotels, and there we will see each other without going live to celebrate Mass, even if Brother Celestino is reduced to the daring lady. Then, though, I remember that next Sunday, the day after tomorrow, while we're returning, Father Johannes will be in Bologna for the 4th Sunday of Advent. Confessions at 3 o'clock, Mass at 17:30. Right, perhaps the post is ready. I don't know. It doesn't seem so. On that subject, I wanted to say something I hope is understood correctly. I say this as guide of the small remainder, and it's this. It's true, as some have pointed out to me, that priests often go to Emilia-Romagna. Why? Our regional reps working hard. So I wouldn't want anyone to think he's doing this for his own benefit. Other regional heads must act too. Because if they make an effort and court the few priests of the sodality, rest assured that by organizing things properly, the priests of the sodality, as Father Johannes has just done, will go, for example, yesterday to Asolo, to Treviso, which isn't just around the corner. He's Austrian, actually, but, you just have to organize in good time. So please, let's try to appreciate and respect each other. I must say that Emilia-Romagna's rep thinks beyond just their region, mainly but not solely. So get to work in the other regions. I'm referring to the regional representatives, so that you can give to the priests. And on that note, I remind you that from yesterday, Don Ramon is in Sardinia until the 22nd of December. So you can ask the regional representative, Marcello, about the procedures, the formula, which for obvious reasons of privacy, given that he's been laicized, we're not making public. And also I wanted to remind you that Father Pavel will be in Ravenna on the 28th of December, in Piacenza on Sunday the 29th of December, in Mantua on the 30th of December, and in Imola on the 31st of December. Right, December 29th was... This poster was prepared, as you can see, by the regional representative from Emilia-Romagna. Here it is, and all we have to do is welcome it, because I can only encourage and bless these initiatives. Piacenza Christmas Mass with Don, Pavel, then Bologna in January. There it is. Mass in Bologna, Sunday the 22nd, here are the posters. Then Bologna and Marca in January. Then from January, Father Pavel will be in Veneto. Right then, my dears. So all I have left to say to conclude this rather lengthy introduction, necessary to show how we move forward despite everything, is firstly that, as I announced yesterday, I'll have to return to the north in January, right after the 7th, as I already announced yesterday, to attend to matters. There's not much to elaborate on, I think you get it, related to the project. 3 sites: Little Nazareth in Carini, Little Tabor in Trebasaleghe, Bethany House in Savigliano in the province of Cuneo. So I must leave because I have to fulfill some technical commitments. But since I'm not a technician and a shepherd and priest at heart, I take this as a sign from Providence that I should be out more than in, especially in the north. I'll be up north. On Saturday and Sunday, I presume Brother Celestino will come with me too. I really hope so. I hope he says yes. We'll be around and about. so I'm announcing it now. But please help us, because in these days when I return to Sicily, I need to figure out when the work in Trebisleghe should begin. We need the money. This is Laban. Please help us if you can. And then there's also the postal current account. There it is. Right, now I need to talk about today's hot topic. I decided to wait a few days before talking about it. I've waited long enough, because today is the 20th, and the incident I'm talking about happened. Sorry, let me close the curtain, because I've got the light in my eyes just a moment more. Thank you. So 16 days have passed, right? I was shocked by some news which, as far as I'm concerned, I believe to be genuine, barring any denials or sensational revelations. See the cover of the title, today's window? Good heavens, though, I wanted to be respectful of those who always doubt, so I added a question mark. Our Lady, she cried again at La Salette. And why? Today's title. Right, let's reconstruct the situation. While the world teeters on the brink of a world war, I heard the news that Vision TV has been shut down because they did a whole report on Putin, so the page was blacked out. That's what I was told. I don't know if it's true. Anyway, what Putin said last night is circulating on various blogs and websites, and it was even on the news yesterday. Putin gave his end-of-year press conference, more or less, and behind him was a map of Russia, which takes up half the world. Precisely. Take Russia off the planet Earth, and what's left are just a few small continents compared to Russia, because it's the biggest country in the world. Impressive. Russia starts at the Ural Mountains borders, or the Urals as some call them, and it starts and ends, you see, around, you look out and you see Japan. A Russian born in St. Petersburg is the same as one born in Katarinov. Katarinov, I think the city's called one of the cities on the far eastern edge of Russia. Russia, with its immense mineral deposits and abundant raw materials, has everything it needs, and therefore hasn't feared the obvious economic sanctions from the West. Yesterday, Putin said 2 or 3 outrageous things. So I'd connect, because I believe it, the weeping of Our Lady, which we are now discussing, to what is happening in the world and in the church. Worse things happen in church than outside. And if what's happening in the world is happening, it's because Lucifer's lieutenant sits in Rome. So Putin said a couple of astonishing things yesterday. The first sensational thing Putin said was that he's willing to negotiate with Zelensky.
Al tavolo basta, chiudilo, scusate, se no la gente si distrae, basta, lascialo così, grazie. Si distrae la gente. Putin ha detto, vedi come mi sono distratto anch'io. Putin ha detto ieri, scusate, sono questioni tecniche ovvie. Putin ieri ha detto una cosa clamorosa, è disposto al tavolo delle trattative con Zelensky.
But he implied that we've already won, we've achieved our objectives. You don't mess with Putin, we've achieved our objectives, so we're ready for negotiations. Then he said, the West doesn't know that we have missiles. Qui diventa il capo di Stato che difende la nazione a lunga gittata che non possono essere intercettati. From enemy radar, from Western radar. A statement that obviously, because then it's a game of arm wrestling, of weapons. Putin said he has the means because he says so. Because as a last resort, as they say in Rome, I'll show you. He praised him. He spoke of Italy, saying that he believes Italy can be a friend, and he mentioned Berlusconi. Putin's fourth point is stunning. I'm just reporting, without making any judgments, because otherwise, who knows how this will end. But I'm reporting, this is information circulating on social media. He also said something else quite astonishing. Putin said that the vampire's ball in the West is ending. In short, it's a very strong statement. And it wasn't said by a man, because it often happens by a statesman with water up to his neck who finds himself in difficulty. On the contrary, Putin, it seems, has won. I'm no expert, so I'm just speaking from what I've heard. Putin supposedly won the war in Ukraine. Apparently he's retaken the Donbass. In short, Zelensky is again intensely requesting help from Europe, from NATO, for further weapons and ammunition, because he says otherwise the war is lost. So Zelensky's taking back ground first. Then in Italy we have Marco Travaglio. Marco Travaglio, who announced that Putin has won the war, said so 2 days ago in a speech. Here, it's a question of understanding how this story ends. Because when Putin says, we have long-range missiles, missiles means nuclear warheads, mind you, long-range missiles with nuclear warheads. That Western radar, we've created our missiles that they can't intercept. It hits you like rain, unstoppable. But isn't that a very strong statement Putin made yesterday? Here's the global state. Church isn't better at all, either. If the world is on the brink of catastrophe, it's because for 12 years, undisturbed in Rome, sits someone who is part of the globalist, international leftist, and satanic Masonic establishment, who is Jorge Mario Bergoglio, who remains there undisturbed. In this morning's news, I read that he invited Biden to Rome. Pope Francis, who is the father of all, would like someone else who has won to die and invites Biden. There's a situation there, plain as day, no more hiding it. So on the throne of Peter sits someone who, all things considered, and this is what matters to us, spread heresy, built a false church, the one Father Pio foretold to Father Gabriele Amort. You know, Gabriel said it's Satan who's infiltrated the church and will soon govern a false church. Here, and Bergoglio, elected by the Freemasons, despite a couple of unsuspecting cardinals, but we need to see how far that goes, because some suspects seem to have even been accomplices. Anyway, with Sangallo's mafia, ignoring all canonical norms, Bergoglio went and sat on Peter's throne, left vacant by Pope Benedict, not simply to allow an antipope to arrive, but for the fulfillment of the third secret of Fatima to occur. What's happening worldwide? Never seen before in history. At least 2,000 years old, if not of humanity itself. The Antichrist's in Rome. As a theologian, the Antichrist isn't just one person. Don't misread me. It might be here now, as they say, since our world's not in good shape. We find, then, those close to me have learned spirituality, let's say, a bit. Like Saints Philip Neri and John Bosco taught, stay cheerful and keep high spirits, for what else can we do? Christmas is the same as Easter. Summer is the same as winter. One day follows another. There's sadness, anguish, people want to end it all. There are those who pray for the Third World War to arrive, saying that things can't go on like this. It's a worldwide situation that suggests possibly that the Antichrist is among us, you know. But the Antichrist, first of all, the Antichrist, first and foremost, is he who denies Jesus Christ, who opposes Jesus Christ theologically, and Bergoglio is the Antichrist, a form of Antichrist. Done. Only God knows what this battle is costing us. Not you, God. Who is Bergoglio, really? We'll only find out by living, anyway, for a bit now. We'll only find out by living who Bergoglio is, where he comes from, his origins, how he was born, what happened in his childhood, what possibly happened later, what preternatural contacts there were. Only we can't know that here on Earth, probably. But it never happened. He's a remarkable man, unparalleled, the greatest man on Earth, after a couple. a refined strategist, an unparalleled manipulator, placed there by the International Masonic Church, the San Gallo Mafia, with the cardinals who elected him, who's destroying the church and Catholic heritage, managing to convince people that this is the church. This is the great deception of the false prophet, because besides having anti-Christian traits, he also has the traits of the false prophet, if not even more so. He's deceiving the church, making them believe this is the Catholic Church. Even the newcomers, Father Fare and Sionci, fall for it. This is the Catholic Church, the canonical way. He's just an anti-pope Bergoglio, amongst other things, someone who's discarding his own past. Fine, we couldn't care less, but this is the situation. A Bergoglio who isn't the Pope, and who's been placed there by the Antichrist, Freemasonry, Satan, Lucifer. Fine. In recent days, another film has come out, yet another one about Mary and Joseph. It's an unbelievable story. It's never clear why. As Rino Camilleri writes, you see, I try to prepare things well, and I have little time. But Rino Camilleri comments on this film released by Netflix, that is, Mary and Joseph. It's never clear why they shouldn't follow the Gospels, so the story becomes unbelievable. The Archangel Saint Gabriel appears to Saint Joseph, brutissimo l'Arcangelo, to tell him to kill poor Lucifer, who's actually gorgeous. Lucifer is killed with a sword by Saint Joseph, poor Lucifer, victim of heavenly conspiracies. We've reached that level. There's a cartoon, I can't remember its name, Satan, Lucifer, something like that, where Lucifer is presented as an angel who's a benefactor of humanity. That never happened. When the satanic circles happened amongst themselves, who tried to? But there was prayer, there was faith, there was holiness of life. What's around today? We're tearing each other apart. So the situation is this. And meanwhile, Putin, who I don't think is particularly friendly with Bergoglio, unless I'm proven wrong, but that's not the point, announces that there are long-range missiles that can't be intercepted, meaning I can strike you at any time without you noticing. Nuclear warheads will rain down on you from the sky before you can even intercept them. It's not a small matter, and I believe this news more than any other at yesterday evening's press conference was able to impress them all. Here's the world state. Right. Within all this, on the 8th of December, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, something astonishing happened. I heard about it a few days ago, several days ago. I took my time to talk about it. And so at La Salette, the Madonna appeared, as you know, in a single apparition, however, where she gave two secrets that speak of the Antichrist in Rome and the final confrontation. Our Lady appeared there on the 19th of September, 1846, to the visionaries Melanie and Maximin. It's an apparition recognized by the Church. He's been to La Salette many times. There's a statue there, at the spot where Our Lady appeared, at 2,000 meters above sea level, on the French side of the Alps, the French Alpine slope. This statue gets snowed on here. We're at 2,000 meters up. Snows here most winter long. So on the 8th of December, it was snowing. There were worshippers praying in front of the statue. And then all of a sudden something happened, a miraculous event. Though it's been denied, of course, because social media didn't report it, obviously. Only the Light of Mary mentioned it, and a few others, a handful really. The Madonna, you see. She cries, and a tear of blood falls. And I'd ask the director to play the video, the contribution. There it is. Let's listen to it in silence. Hear the audio? You see there's a statue of the Madonna. This is the picture. The Madonna is entirely covered in snow, but her face remains free. Look closely. It's a bronze statue, because it has to withstand the freezing temperatures. You can see it very clearly. While there's a group of worshippers there, and despite the heavy snowfall, they don't leave but remain in place. You can see a tear rolling down the Madonna's face. Let's see those images, 1039, of last December the 8th. Look, this image is impressive. Look closely. You can clearly see the Madonna crying. Now, naturally, the message hasn't been made public, but you can clearly see how the Madonna appears to be shedding tears. We could, right, this is the overall picture, right? You could freeze frame that where you can see the Madonna. There it is. Look, this image is impressive. Here, I don't know if you agree, I'm naturally referring to those who believe in prophecies, in God's interventions. Others can believe what they like. This image is even more shocking. Look closely, it seems Our Lady, incidentally, at La Salette, appeared with the stigmata that these tears and this weeping transform her into the holy face of Jesus during the Passion. I don't know if you agree, but it immediately brings to mind Christ's Ecce Homo. Our Lady is weeping profusely from both eyes. You can, of course, imagine what might have happened between the La Salette missionaries who are there managing the sanctuary, the Bishop of Grenoble, and so on. They obviously tried to bury the news, as always happens, and to keep it as quiet as possible. Anyway, the statue of Our Lady of La Salette is weeping. A red liquid is flowing from her face. Davide Murgia even mentioned it on his blog. The statue of Our Lady appears completely snow-covered, as you can see, and from the images that have been released, you can distinguish a trickle of red liquid. It's 10:49. That runs down her cheeks. So, we, naturally at this moment, I'll say it straight away, could easily be proven wrong, that is to say that it was a hoax. But why do it? Anyway, the global situation isn't a hoax, that's for sure. So in my opinion, it could be true. The Virgin's apparition, it happened as you know, but why at La Salette? Why is the Madonna weeping at La Salette? It's not hard to grasp the meaning. The Madonna wept at La Salette on the 8th of December last year, because at La Salette, in this apparition, which precedes that of Lourdes by a few years, and that of Fatima by some time, the Madonna officially announced for the first time the coming of the Antichrist. We owe to Monsignor Gallo the commitment of having written a small volume, a book. He wrote more than one, this is the most famous, in which he finally reports with in-depth studies the content of the two secrets that Our Lady gave to Melanie and Maximin. They're two shocking secrets, and if Our Lady wept at La Salette, it might be because the time has come for these secrets to come to pass. I read that on the 14th of December, 1904, almost incognito, Melanie Calvat passed away in Altamura, in Puglia. Melanie Calvat era la pastorella française to whom, on the 19th of September 1846 at La Salette, Our Lady appeared, revealing a weighty secret. Except to the then pontiff, Pius IX, Melanie revealed to no one what the Blessed Virgin had told her. Why did this controversial figure end up dying almost clandestinely in the heart of the Merge? The uproar surrounding the appearance of the little room quickly turned this illiterate child's daily life into torment. Unease marked the rest of the poor woman's life, haunted by suspicions and unfair accusations, a bit like Adelaide Roncalli of Ghiai di Banate, hounded by people who sometimes tried to exploit her, succeeding, with the result of playing into the hands of her detractors. Our Lady chooses whomever she wills, my dear children. She has chosen these people, these simple souls, often children, to show the way of humility, as we were saying last night, speaking of the Christmas novena, the way of humility, the way of smallness. Because, as I said last night, when one is small and humble, one is more open to God's work. And they were chosen to be the first, custodians and recipients of sensational messages. However, Poor Melania endures a dramatic existence, we might say, and that brings us to the problem of the message. On the 19th of September 1846, the Madonna appeared to Melania and Massimino, who were 15 and 10 years old respectively, and entrusted them with two secrets. The two secrets were written down on the 5th of July, 1851, unfortunately some years later, and given to Pope Pius IX on the 18th of July following. It won't be as some claim, because there's a supernatural element in the Church's history, and that's Pius IX. He was convinced to proclaim the dogma of the Immaculate Conception because of the miraculous medal of 1830 at Rue du Bac, and then especially by this apparition of Our Lady at La Salette, of which he became the recipient of the messages, the secrets. Get me? I'm in Pope Pius's shoes. Like Pius IX with the Immaculate Conception, he'd solved it theologically. It's the same with popes. Pius XII and the Assumption. That child told him his thoughts. I wish a child would visit me sometime. I'll wait. Now Pius IX therefore knew two secrets. Several versions exist of Melania's secret. An unpublished version, dated 14th August 1853, several other versions published by Don Billiard between 1870 and 1873, the last with the imprimatur of the Archbishop of Naples, Sisto Riario Sforza. Finally, a third version which Melania herself had printed in 1879 with the imprimatur of the Bishop of Lecce, Monsignor Luigi Zola. This latest version is known as the Secret of the Little Room, in which the decisive passage appears. So, against all those who scorn the prophecy, I tell you it has the bishop's signature and imprimatur. It has the imprimatur of the Bishop of Lecce. It's no small thing. This imprimatur includes the famous phrase that the Madonna whispered in secret. Rome, it will lose its faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. So I believe that Our Lady, if she wept, as I believe she did, wept because the question is, why did she weep? She wept to make it clear that it's time for penance, that it's time for conversion, that it's time for prayer. Why? Because what Our Lady said in her letter about 2 centuries ago is coming to pass. Rome, these are the Madonna's words. Rome will lose its faith but retain its right. No, I meant, sorry, I can't say. Rome will lose its faith, or if it loses its faith, where is the Catholic Church? The Church's infallibility, we have to talk about the final frontier. The final frontier is worse, in my opinion, than all the others. It's not that it deceives. The Church is indefectible, not in its structures, but in its guardianship of the apostolic faith. Rome will lose the faith. Therefore, it is not the Church. The Church is where the faith is preserved, and there is a small remnant that, at a personal cost, is preserving the faith. But that's another story. Rome will lose the faith. That's the following sentence that should give you pause. It will become the seat of the Antichrist. Mind you, Our Lady said so. It is in Rome that the Antichrist will come to sit. It's not that this weeping would be recognized, true, but rest assured, this will never be said clearly. You can forget about it, because Satan's partisans will prevent it. It's not that this clamorous weeping, as you see again in this still image, indicates that Our Lady is telling us, dear children, Don Minutella is sent by me and is telling the truth. That is, there's the Antichrist in Rome, because if we of the sodality don't say it, who else will? There are new versions claiming he's just an anti-pope. We'll solve that with a couple of canons of canon law. It's done. What devils and Lucifers in the Vatican? The very same ones who yesterday missed no opportunity to make themselves known thanks to these excellent in-depth studies. Careful, my dear children. So Satan's battle, rest assured, because I tell you, is to make you believe this. To many of the small remainder, that it's necessary to lose this supernatural perspective, throwing it solely onto the plane of a canonical, juridical debate. Let's wait for 2036. This final version is one of the most devilish, in my opinion. Wait till 36, then we'll talk. Meanwhile, in Rome, there's the Antichrist. But we mustn't say it because prophecies are worthless. Bread and ham are enough. You understand this is a dangerous version. Because if, as I think, and the seemingly true weeping of Our Lady of La Salette suggests, what Our Lady announced is being realized right before our eyes, we can't ignore this. Rome will lose its faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. I want to tell everyone that these are the words of Our Lady. Attention, these are the words of the Blessed Virgin. Let them faint if they want. So an expectation from the last time anyway. For this final battle, we can allow ourselves. It's not that we're fanatics, as some might try to make out, because we too believe in the code of canon law, and my books and my catechesis bear witness to that. I spoke of the Universi Dominici Gregis. But even then, the great Ratzinger, who wasn't yet Pope, managed, in my opinion, even against the very will of Wojtyla, to introduce the apocalyptic theme. It's in the Catechism, number 675, the final test. He put it in Article 33 of the Universi Dominici Gregis. He makes it quite clear. Because it states there that the cardinals who are appointed to elect the Pope are those validly created as such. Now, those Bergoglio created aren't such cardinals, right? But the Pope's arrival means no other ecclesiastical or secular institution can take on the responsibility of electing the Pope. So it's clear that Ratzinger knew there that Rome would lose its faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. He knew the third secret of Fatima. He knew what would happen. That's why he left it open in a document signed by Wojtyla, but also co-authored with Ratzinger's collaboration. The one possibility that the experts on duty now pretend not to see is this. If it's said that the cardinals must elect the Pope if they are truly cardinals, and we have a situation where the cardinals are no longer in a position to elect the Pope, they are no longer officially so because most of them are Bergoglian appointees, and I'd say unofficially too because they are all complicit in the heresy. Pre-Bergoglio picks, more so in conclave. Therefore, the Pope says in the Universi Dominici Gregis that no one else can elect the Pope. What does this mean? Two things, simply, or that the Church ends, because ubi Petrus ibi ecclesia, or, without saying it openly, the document is suggesting that God intervenes. As Brother Celestine said yesterday, and Father Johannes the day before, this is all a matter of God now, because Rome for God is a matter of God. Faith, said Our Lady, and it will become the seat of the Antichrist. Perhaps flowers, how many things, 50 things there would be to delve into. All this would need, indeed, special in-depth study. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Freemasonry, as I write in my book, Church, Where Are You Going?, has infiltrated the Vatican. So, for example, the Holy Office specified that it intended to condemn the content of 1957, where Our Lady speaks of the end times. Rome will lose faith and become the Antichrist's seat. Melania, I'm about to tell you something you mustn't tell anyone. God's wrath has arrived. If, when you have told the people what I have just said and what I shall tell you to say again, if after that, if they don't convert, there'll be no repentance, and it will continue, and so on and so forth. God will take revenge on the people, making them slaves of the devil. Let's look around at what's happening. Let's look at how the West has become. Yesterday I read a prophecy on a Facebook profile by the Blessed Anna Maria Taigi, who lived in the 18th century, saying she foresaw processions in Rome in later centuries of men who had become women and women who had become men, carrying their idols in procession to St. Peter's Square, stained with blood. And then I can't read it to you, it's all top secret. But this secret speaks of the Antichrist. I can't go into all of that. Our Lady said that everything I tell you will happen later in the 2000 years. She told me to say it sometime later. That's the secret given to Massimino Giro. I'd like to add more, but time's pressing. I must conclude. Right then, back to us. Meanwhile, I'd like to ask the director to play this, even though the voice is a bit artificial and unpleasant. I don't understand why social media is slowly moving in this direction, which we and many of you don't like. That is, making videos, even interesting ones, but with an artificial voice. Sounds artificial, might be wrong. I'd be wrong. But I've tracked down a video, the only one that makes a video about this apparition of the Madonna. It says things. Take the second part with a pinch of salt, but I wanted to offer it to you like this, as a possibility. I don't know who this reader is who lives in Brazil, who connects a vision she had. She is followed anyway by a local Monsignor, this mystic, also a religious woman, who shortly before or shortly after the Madonna's weeping in the small room would have had this vision. We're not using the conditional because I don't know who it is, but it seems interesting to offer it to you as an overview. How long does it take? Let me ask. It's long, right? Let's begin. Let's go live now. 8th December 2024, on the day dedicated to the Immaculate Conception, a video showing the statue of Our Lady of La Salette weeping began circulating on social media. Naturally, as always happens in these cases, many immediately cried foul, claiming digital manipulation and a sensationalist agenda. But the real question, beyond the video's authenticity, it's a food for thought, in any case, that it has offered us. Why is La Salette back in the spotlight right now? Why the 8th of December? There's something unsettling about this coincidence. La Salette isn't just any old apparition. It's the apparition of Our Lady, weeping for humanity's future and for the corruption within the Church itself. And now, as the world faces an unprecedented crisis, and the Church endures one of the darkest hours in its history, those tears flow once more. Whether genuine or not, this weeping brings us to a crucial question. And what if the terrible secrets of La Salette were unfolding right before our eyes? And what if those tears shed 178 years ago in the French Alps? Were they just the prelude to what we're experiencing today? If you think these topics are important, help us get them to as many people as possible. A simple like can make all the difference. Thank you so much. To understand the scale of this event, we must first discuss a recent vision that sheds light on the gravity of the situation we're facing. On the 22nd of April, 2023, a nun from northeastern Brazil received a disturbing vision revealed by Lucas Gelasio, also a spokesperson for Father Oliveira. In her vision, the nun saw two groups of people, separated by a transparent barrier. On one side, people indulging in worldly pleasures, on the other, people praying, but coldly, apathetically. The nun was on the side of those who prayed, but she noticed with dismay their spiritual indifference. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light illuminated the group that was having fun. When the nun looked again in that direction, she saw a strange, colorful mountain. As she drew closer, she realized with horror that it wasn't a mountain, but a pile of lifeless bodies. All those people were dead, their bodies piled up and abandoned. A boy, just over 10 years old, appeared on the scene, observing the corpses with a deathly sadness. Saw the nun. With tears streaming down her face, she left. As the nun prayed for the departed, a clear voice rang out, "My mother's secrets at La Salette, they didn't want to listen." The vision continued within the group of believers, where the nun was the only one to perceive the tragedy on the other side. The others, all priests, consecrated lay people, and religious like her, they seemed completely indifferent to the tragedy unfolding. Then a woman appeared, inviting everyone to listen to the secret of the small room in an auditorium. Few accepted the invitation, and the nun, with growing concern, noted that the presented version was incomplete and softened, not the full version of the message. When she tried to warn the others about a fuller version, nobody paid her any attention. Leaving the place, she heard a voice saying, "The priests, ministers of my son, with their wicked lives are lost, for they would not listen to me." The nun woke up at that moment, but the voice continued, finishing the sentence in a sweet and sad tone, which clearly resonated in her room. The story of La Salette is emblematic of how the Church has often tried to minimize or put aside the most inconvenient prophetic messages. But despite the adversity, our Heavenly Mother always finds a way to guide our path. Let's ask her never to stop doing so, writing together in the comments. Mother of Grace, protect me from the enemy. Amen. The apparition of the 19th of September 18. Right then, let's thank the YouTube channel, Heart of Christ Prayers, for bringing this seemingly miraculous, supernatural event to our attention. It happened at La Salette on the 8th of December this year. Apparently, the Virgin Mary shed tears of a crimson-red color. At La Salette, around 11, that December 8th. And above all, because this had apparently been anticipated by the vision of this nun. A priest is named Father Oliveira. They go looking for a priest from a point of reference. So it could be something real, something authentic. On the other hand, this news can't just be accepted like geysers erupting, because otherwise there's a conspiracy to keep everything quiet. Where you can see that, in my opinion, Our Lady announces the great warning there, a heap, a mountain that were corpses. And so, my dear children, to conclude, we're fighting important battles, but as far as I'm concerned, I feel time is pressing. Let's try to stay united, and above all, let's stay in God's grace. Let's never leave our rosary beads behind. Let's take them everywhere, to the bathroom, to the table, wherever we are, with friends, wherever we are, just like the religious did. They wore them at their belt, on their girdle, on their cord. Let's not leave the rosary beads. Let's think of Our Lady. A phrase said by Father Candido Amantini, the well-known exorcist currently under consideration for beatification, struck me the other day. Father Amort, a young Father Amort, Gabriele, this man moved among saints. Gabriele is a man of faith, always praying, and he loves Our Lady. Since Putin isn't joking, and he's not joking when he says that long-range ballistic missiles are ready, missiles that are undetectable by the Western powers' radar defense systems. That's why I'm telling you, my dear children, it's important to be vigilant in prayer, because these missiles could arrive at any moment. Look. The situation's explosive worldwide and tragic within the Church. No place to look. It's a moment in which we are already punished by God Himself. Total abandonment, complete apostasy. It's more than 3 days of darkness. It's not 3 days of darkness. This is the deepest darkness of the Egyptian plague. So then our light is Mary. Last Sunday in Verona, I gave you a picture for my 25th. Hope I make it there, the 25th. And I say this because it seems to me that any moment now, the inevitable will come, I think. I'm saying I wrote there, Mary, light and hope of mine, my light, Christ is the light. But for these times, God, not us, for whom one obeys God, has established that the light for all of us is the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And therefore let us maintain the faith. There it is. Hail Mary, hope and light of mine. and therefore let us maintain the faith, because at any moment it could rain. It makes me laugh to say it, but it's true. So Our Lady would have cried again in the little room. Probably mainly to say, however, that Rome has lost the faith. It has become the seat. She announced it 178 years ago. Now she cries again. She wept to say that Rome has lost the faith and that the Antichrist has arrived. And we made the best choice, without expecting anything from these apostate cardinals, accomplices, blatantly complicit in the Antichrist imposture in Rome. Without expecting anything from them, we believed in the prophecies. We saw that the Code of Canon Law is now completely inadequate to resolve the situation we are experiencing. So with crown and rosary in hand, we follow the guidance given to us by the new Moses, Pope Benedict, and in the small remnant, while the Church, Satan's, counterattack, and creates a new gospel, we remain faithful to apostolic tradition.